Terence Crawford entered the ring that night with the air of a man determined to prove once again that he was not just a champion, but one of the most complete fighters of his generation. Across from him stood Raymundo Beltran, a proud warrior from Mexico who had fought his way through the toughest battles of his career and was now presented with the opportunity of a lifetime. The atmosphere inside the arena was charged, the crowd buzzing with excitement, knowing that this clash was more than just a boxing match. It was a test of skill, grit, and heart. Crawford, representing the USA, had already gained a reputation for his adaptability and ring IQ, while Beltran brought with him relentless pressure and the kind of experience that could make things dangerous at any moment. From the opening bell, the contrast in styles was evident. Crawford, calm and composed, circled the ring with a calculated patience, reading Beltran's movements, probing with his jab, and switching
to impose his will with hooks to the body and overhand rights aimed at catching Crawford off guard. The first round was a tense exchange of intentions. Beltran pressing forward, Crawford responding with sharp counters, each man trying to stamp his authority early. The crowd roared with every landed punch, aware that the story of this fight would unfold in layers. By the second and third rounds, Crawford's rhythm began to surface. His jab snapped like a whip, popping Beltran's head back and keeping him at a measured distance. Every time Beltran lunged forward, Crawford either pivoted out of range or timed a precise counter that forced the Mexican contender to reset. Beltran did not shy away, continuing to march forward with grit, but the subtle differences in speed and timing were beginning to show. Crawford's ability to switch stances mid-combination left Beltran guessing, unable to predict where the next punch would come from. The American champion wasn't just throwing punches, Crawford absorbed them, calmly clinching before circling out of danger. It was a reminder that Beltran was not there to surrender. He had power in his hands and the kind of determination that could not be underestimated. Yet, as soon as Crawford was back in the center of the ring, he re-established control with his jab and uppercuts, punishing Beltran for every attempt to close the gap. The difference in class was becoming more apparent, but the fight still had the air of danger, because one clean shot could always change everything. By the midway point, Crawford had truly settled into his flow. His footwork was mesmerizing, gliding effortlessly around the ring, never staying in one place long enough for Beltran to pin him down. The jab continued to dictate the pace, but it was Crawford's combinations that stood out. Short, crisp, and unpredictable. A jab followed by a straight left, then a sudden hook to the body, and before Beltran could react, punches often fell short or were deflected by Crawford's slick defense. It was a masterclass in the art of hitting without being hit. As the fight entered the championship rounds, Beltran's face began to bear the marks of battle. His eyes were swelling, his movements a little slower, but his heart was as strong as ever. He continued to march forward, throwing punches in bunches, hoping to land something decisive. Crawford, however, seemed to grow sharper as the rounds progressed. His conditioning was on full display. He looked fresh, bouncing on his toes, firing punches with precision. In the 8th and 9th rounds, he began to open up more, landing punishing shots that had the crowd gasping. A perfectly timed left hand snapped Beltran's head back, followed by a right uppercut that drew a cheer from the audience. It was becoming clear that Crawford was not only in control, but also on the verge of dominating completely. Beltran, however, refused. In the 10th round, he threw everything he had, charging at Crawford with wild combinations, hoping to catch the champion by surprise. Crawford, unfazed, weathered the storm with composure, slipping punches and responding with counters that seemed effortless. It was like watching a matador control a charging bull, using skill and finesse to neutralize raw aggression. The crowd applauded Beltran's courage, but they could not ignore the brilliance of Crawford's execution. By the final rounds, the fight had turned into a showcase of Crawford's dominance. Every punch he threw landed with accuracy, every movement was calculated. He switched stances fluidly, almost mocking the idea that My Beltran could catch him! The champion was putting on a display of technical superiority, showing why he was regarded as one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. Beltran's corner urged him on, knowing he needed a knockout, but Crawford gave him no such opportunity. Instead, he continued to pile on the points, landing sharp jabs, quick hooks, and blistering uppercuts that left the challenger with little response. When the final bell rang, the fighters embraced, a show of respect between two warriors who had given their all. The crowd rose to their feet, applauding both men, but it was clear who had been the architect of the night's performance. The judges' scorecards were red, and all three favored Crawford by wide margins. It was a unanimous decision, a confirmation of what everyone in the arena had witnessed. Terence Crawford had delivered a boxing masterclass, outsmarting and outclassing a game and determined Raymundo Beltran. Beltran had shown heart, toughness, and courage, but Crawford had shown brilliance, intelligence, and artistry. The significance of this fight went beyond just the win. For Crawford, it was another step in cementing his legacy as one of the most complete fighters of his era. His ability to adapt, his defensive sharpness, and his offensive creativity were all on display in one night. Fans and analysts alike marveled at how he could make such a difficult opponent look ordinary, how he could neutralize pressure with composure and turn aggression into opportunities for counters. It was a reminder that Crawford was not just a puncher, not just a slick mover, he was the total package. For Beltran, despite the loss, the fight added to his reputation as a true warrior. He had stood in front of one of the best fighters in the world and fought with everything he had. He never backed down, never stopped coming forward, and in doing so, he earned the respect of the fans and even his opponent. That night, with overwhelming odds. As the dust settled, the conversation shifted to Crawford's future. Who could challenge him next? How far could his dominance go? With each performance, he seemed to be evolving, sharpening his skills and widening the gap between himself and the rest of the division. The Beltran fight was not just a win, it was a statement. Crawford had shown that he could handle pressure fighters, that he could control the pace of the fight, and that he could deliver under the bright lights when expectations were high. His reign was far from over. It was only just beginning. The highlights of the fight would be replayed countless times. Crawford's slick counters, his dazzling footwork, his ability to switch stances and control every second of the action. Fans would remember the way he made Beltran miss and pay, the way he dictated the fight with intelligence and calmness. It was the kind of performance that reminded people why they fell in love with boxing.